Today's experience comes from a sister in Saudi Arabia, and what she has to share is truly one you won't want to miss. I encourage you to stay with us until the end to fully grasp her journey. My name is Mariam Magid, and I grew up in a world where faith was everything. From my earliest days, I was immersed in the teachings of the Quran, with our lives centered around prayer, fasting, and cherished traditions handed down through generations. My father was the foundation of our home, an imam held in high regard, not only by our family, but by the entire community. His deep understanding of Islam and unwavering devotion to our faith were beyond question. Though strict, he was also kind, ensuring we understood the significance of our beliefs and responsibilities as Muslims. In contrast, my mother practiced her faith more quietly, but was no less devoted. She rarely missed a prayer, often found in the corner of our home with her prayer beads, whispering heartfelt supplications. Growing up, I never questioned this lifestyle. Islam was not just a religion for me, it was my identity, my culture, my entire community. My parents made it clear that our faith was our everything, providing us with purpose, structure, and a sense of belonging. This was the only reality I'd ever known, and I embraced it wholeheartedly. I admired my father's wisdom and my mother's gentle devotion, believing that following their path was the only way to lead a fulfilling life. Then one ordinary afternoon, I stumbled upon something that would dramatically alter my life, although I had no idea at the time. While killing time between classes at the campus library, a place I often retreated to for its calm, I noticed a small, worn book left unattended on a table. It was the Bible. I hesitated, feeling an inexplicable pull toward it. I'd never held a Bible before, and had no real reason to, yet I found myself sitting down, picking it up and flipping through its pages. It felt strange, almost taboo. Growing up, I had heard that the Bible was a corrupted text, and had never been inclined to learn about it. But there it was, beckoning me, and my curiosity won. I can't recall how long I sat there, lost in those pages, but eventually my gaze landed on a verse from the book of Matthew. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Those simple yet profound words halted me in my tracks. I read them again slowly, pondering why they resonated so deeply within me. The tenderness of the invitation captured my attention. My understanding of Jesus was limited to what I had been taught in Islam, that he was a prophet, but not the Son of God. Yet, in that moment, I found myself pondering him in a way I had never done before. I hadn't set out to find answers that day, but a seed had been planted in my heart. It was the first time I had genuinely contemplated Jesus, and even though I tried to dismiss it, I couldn't shake those words from my mind. They spoke to me in a way I couldn't fully explain. University life was a new experience altogether, unlike anything I had known before. For the first time, I was surrounded by a vibrant mix of people from diverse backgrounds and beliefs. My university was a melting pot of ideas, where students from various religions mingled with those who didn't subscribe to any faith at all. Deep discussions about life and spirituality often unfolded, especially after class. We would gather and share our beliefs, how we viewed the world, and the different paths we were all navigating. I found myself drawn into these conversations, not from doubt about my own faith, but from a genuine curiosity about how others lived and what they believed. I made friends who were Christians, Hindus, and even atheists. While I consistently defended my Islamic faith, I couldn't help but admire the confidence and joy some of them displayed in their beliefs. One thing that struck me most about the Christian students was the profound sense of peace they exuded. It wasn't that they were free from struggles. They faced their challenges just like everyone else. But there was a serene joy about them, a calmness that eluded me. They spoke of their faith not as a set of rules or obligations, but as a personal relationship with God. They referred to Jesus as if he were a close friend, someone who loved them unconditionally. I had never encountered anyone speaking of God in that way. It wasn't envy I felt. I loved my faith and found solace in the rituals of Islam. However, their peace sparked my curiosity. How could they be so certain? How could they find joy in their faith amid life's difficulties? These questions echoed in my mind, though I seldom voiced them. Instead, I listened intently during our discussions, absorbing every insight and striving to understand how their faith shaped their lives. The experience of faith I witnessed among my friends was vastly different from my own. The more time I spent with them, the more I began to recognize this contrast. One evening, I took a leap and decided to borrow a copy of the Bible from the campus library. I tucked it under my jacket, feeling a thrill of secrecy, though I couldn't quite articulate why it felt wrong. Once I returned to my dorm room, I carefully hid the Bible under my bed, making sure it was well concealed. That night, as everyone else slept, I pulled it out and started to read. I told myself it was merely an attempt to understand Christian beliefs, nothing more. Yet deep down, I knew it was much more than that. Each night I read a little further, always in secret, cautious not to be discovered. The thought of my family or friends finding out terrified me. I knew they would be heartbroken. I wasn't trying to convert. I wasn't even sure what I was seeking. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was on a quest for something deeper. With each page I turned, an internal conflict began to brew within me. I had been raised to believe that Islam was the one true path. Yet the words of Jesus stirred emotions in me that I had never experienced before. Some nights I would close the Bible and attempt to pray in the way I'd always known, but something felt different now. I was caught between two worlds. The faith I had grown up with and this new pull toward an understanding I didn't fully grasp. Guilt washed over me, as if I was betraying my family, my upbringing, and everything I had ever believed. But alongside that guilt was an insatiable curiosity and a sense of unease that lingered like a shadow. One evening, I sat on my bed, the dim glow of a small lamp illuminating my room. I opened the Bible to a verse I had read earlier that day. My heart weighed heavy with questions, still torn between the faith of my childhood and my newfound intrigue about Jesus. I didn't know why I kept returning to this particular verse, but it felt significant, almost like it held a truth I was meant to discover. The words from John echoed in my mind. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. I read it repeatedly, allowing the meaning to wash over me. I had been wrestling with so much, the guilt, the fear, the confusion, and I longed for clarity. I closed my eyes, trying to piece it all together, silently praying for guidance, even though I wasn't sure to whom I was praying. Was it Allah? Was it the Jesus I had been reading about? I didn't know, but my heart was searching, yearning for some kind of answer. Then, suddenly, I felt it. A presence in the room that was undeniably real. My heart raced as I opened my eyes, scanning the space around me, but there was no one there. Yet I could feel it. Something or someone was with me. It wasn't frightening. The atmosphere felt charged with a warmth I couldn't explain. As I turned my gaze toward the wall by the window, something incredible happened. A figure stepped through the wall instead of the door. At first, my mind struggled to comprehend this, but as he drew closer, I realized it was Jesus. I had never encountered him like this before, but deep within me I knew it was him. His presence filled the room with a radiance that transcended description, a light surrounding him that was soft, warm, and infused with love. The peace enveloping the room was overwhelming. It wasn't just the absence of noise. It was a profound calm that seemed to mend everything broken within me in an instant. When our eyes met, I felt an overwhelming surge of love radiating from him. It was a love that saw every flaw, every doubt, every fear, and yet still embraced me with an irresistible tenderness. I couldn't move. I was frozen not by fear, but by sheer awe. Every part of me recognized that this was the moment I had been searching for, even if I hadn't realized it until now. Jesus stood before me, and while he said little, his presence spoke volumes. He simply looked at me with that all-encompassing love and said, "I love you, and I will always be by your side." In that instant, I didn't just hear his words. I felt them deep in my soul. It was as if his love reached into every corner of my being, filling the voids and answering the questions that had haunted me. This wasn't the conditional love I had experienced before. It was perfect, unconditional, and eternal. In those few words, everything shifted. The doubt, the guilt, the confusion, they all melted away. I knew without a doubt that this was the truth I had been seeking. Jesus was not merely a figure from history or a distant prophet. He was alive, real, and he loved me in a way I had never imagined. Without saying anything further, he turned and walked back through the wall, just as mysteriously as he had come. I sat in silence, still enveloped in the warmth of his presence. My heart pounded, but it wasn't fear I felt. It was a profound sense of peace and revelation. Fear washed over me as I realized my life had changed forever. In those fleeting moments, everything became clear. I no longer needed to question or wrestle with doubts. I had encountered Jesus, and his love was the answer I had been seeking all along. Making the decision to follow Jesus came with an awareness of the cost involved, yet I could never have anticipated just how steep that price would be. Telling my family was the most challenging thing I've ever faced. I had prayed for courage, fully aware that once I uttered those words, there would be no turning back. One evening after dinner, I waited until we were all gathered. My father sat reading the Quran as my mother prepared tea. My heart raced as I searched for the right words. How could I explain to them that I was no longer the person they believed me to be, that I had embraced something they would perceive as a betrayal? When I finally said I had become a Christian, a heavy silence filled the room. My father's reaction was immediate. He leaped to his feet, his face twisted in rage. He shouted accusations, calling me ungrateful and claiming I was betraying everything he had ever taught me. My mother, heartbroken, wept, covering her face as if she couldn't bear to look at me. The air felt thick, as if the room were collapsing around me, suffocated by their anger and despair. I tried to explain, to share my encounter with Jesus and the love and peace I had discovered, but they refused to listen. Neighbors who once greeted me warmly now averted their eyes, offering only cold stares and whispered insults as I passed. The hardest blow came from my father's ultimatum. His face was stern, his eyes filled with pain as he said, "Return to Islam, or leave this house forever. If you choose this path, you are no longer my daughter." His voice was final. His decision left no room for negotiation. My heart shattered at that moment, knowing what lay ahead. After that painful confrontation, I left home with only a small suitcase and a heart heavy with uncertainty. Thankfully, I wasn't alone. Sarah, my quiet and steadfast friend, was there for me when I needed her most. When I recounted what had happened, she didn't hesitate. "You can stay with me," she said, without a moment's doubt. I had never experienced such kindness, such unconditional love. It felt as though I had discovered a new family in her, a sisterhood forged not by blood, but by faith. Joining a Christian community was another leap into the unknown, and I wasn't sure I was ready. But Sarah encouraged me to visit her church. The people there didn't know my story, and I kept it to myself at first, but they welcomed me with open arms. Their kindness, patience, and understanding made space for my questions, allowing me to navigate my journey. Still, I missed my family, and the pain of their rejection lingered like a shadow in my heart. Well, friends, this brings us to the end of today's experience. If you found this story meaningful, please like and share this video with your friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell to be the first to hear about our new experiences. Stay blessed.